Primeiramente, boa noite para todos. Vou fazer as apresentações em português, depois nós ligamos o nosso Google Translator e aí seguimos. Pessoal, a aula aqui hoje seria aula de inglês instrumental do curso de comunicação, jornalismo e publicidade. É uma disciplina diferenciada no curso, né? Traz um panorama diferente no que diz respeito ao vocabulário, aplicação de vocabulário técnico. Então, a gente tenta trazer o máximo de informações possíveis da área de vocês. E para a gente fechar aí com chave de ouro o nosso semestre, eu convido a Cassandra Cassel Pereira e para os amigos da Sandy. Eu fiz esse convite com muito orgulho, porque a Cassandra é uma amiga muito querida e a formação dela nos deixa assim de queixo caído quando falamos em comunicação, em publicidade. Então, rapidamente aqui para vocês, a Sandy, ela estudou em New Jersey, no King College, fez ali o bacharelado dela foi em comunicação visual, se especializou em mídia, publicidade e desenho gráfico, teve um reconhecimento do reitor pela qualidade dos estudos. A Sandy também trabalhou como coordenadora de projetos internacionais de mídia, marketing, música e filmes em Atlanta. Aqui tem um nome, eu não sei se é assim,
One Two Media.
One Two, como se fosse One Two, ok.
One Two.
Ela também trabalhou numa agência de publicidade em New York, chama Darcy, super conhecida. Era criadora, escritora, apresentadora, produtora de campanhas publicitárias para clientes como Friends of Earthlink e Procter & Gamble. São aquelas marcas assim enormes. E também trabalhou em New York na agência Young & Rubicam. Ali ela já era criadora, escritora, apresentadora, produtora de campanhas para clientes como aqui a gente conhece alguns deles, Sony Visa Card, Advil, Xerox, ou para nós o Xerox, Fisher Price, Citicorp, Citibank, Diners Club, e tem prêmios de direção de arte e escrita publicitária, além de primeiro lugar na F Gold Kama, que foi uma bolsa de estudos. A Sandy hoje comanda aí a nossa escola de idiomas na UNIFAE, o Smart English, e vocês vão saber o que uma pessoa tão gabaritada está fazendo aqui tão perto de nós, né? Vamos entender toda essa história. A Sandy vai dar a sua contribuição em inglês, tá? Então, por favor, sintam-se confortáveis para interromper, perguntar no chat. Faltou alguma palavra? Manda lá no chat, a gente vai resolvendo, tá bom? Só que o objetivo é que vocês ouçam inglês. Vamos aproveitar esse horário para internalizar o nosso conhecimento. Quem entender tudo, maravilha. Quem entender muito pouco, maravilha também. O que importa é que a gente faça esse treino aqui no nosso listening, ok? Sandy, thank you so much for being here with us. I'm very happy to see you here, to be with you here. Yeah, to be with you here. I prefer at UNIFAE, we can hug, we can talk, but that's okay here. So
this is better than nothing.
Better than nothing. So the class is all yours.
Okay. First of all, hi everybody. How are you tonight?
Very good.
I am American. I was born and raised in New Jersey. And I have lived here in Brazil now since 2008. So now it has been 12 years that I have been here in Brazil. And I still speak Portuguese because Portuguese is very difficult, okay? English is much easier than Portuguese. But that's another discussion over at Centro de Línguas, okay? I did put together a presentation for you guys to some pictures and things for as we go to kind of give you a visual aid while I am speaking English. I will talk a lot about my history, and I will show you some of our advertising campaigns that I did when I worked in New York City, okay? I do not have a website or anything with advertising anymore because I have not worked in the industry for a long time, since 2002, 2003. And, but my art director that I worked with, she has her portfolio online. So I will take you to her portfolio because she still has a lot of our campaigns that we did together. Okay, so they're still there on her website. She still uses them. Okay, and actually she is now a professor at an advertising school at Syracuse University. So she is really, really a great professor, and it's really nice to see her in a different position now. Okay, I'm going to share my screen with you, and I'm going to start the presentation mode here. Okay, here we go. Okay, let me try to get rid of our stuff here, this black thing. Okay, so I spent most of my career in advertising. I studied graphic design, I studied photography, but most of my career was in advertising. So I have the highs, lows, and tomatoes. You will understand the tomatoes about halfway through, okay? So we'll be talking about the history and the good things, the bad things about working in the industry, okay? So the first part is about nurturing creativity, all right? And when I was a child, I knew that I was creative, but when I went to high school, in our high school, we had the opportunity to study various art courses. So I studied photography, I studied woodworking, I studied metal, making things with metal too, two-dimensional design, architectural theory, mechanical drawing. These were all courses at my high school, extra courses. Yes, we had math, science, blah, 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 blah. But my favorite was with Mr. Gardner. You can see his picture here. This is George Gardner, and he was my teacher for most of my art classes in high school. And he actually helped me make the decision to go into advertising. So basically, I owe my whole career to that man right there. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful special teacher. Fantastic man. Okay. After I knew I was creative, but then for some reason I decided to go to university to become a teacher for young children. Okay. I was very good in school, so I got an academic scholarship and I went to school in Virginia. Virginia is in the South, okay? And I didn't stay there very long because we had a crazy thing happen at the university. It was nighttime, and the police at the university came and they told everybody, go to your apartment, lock the door, turn off the lights, close the curtains, and get on the floor. Okay? And we're like, what the heck is going on? So the girl I lived with in my apartment, her name was Laura, and she was from Staten Island, New York, and I'm from New Jersey. So we're laying there and we hear things happening, and there was a 13 or 14-year-old baby redneck. That's what we call the Southerners, baby redneck. He had taken his father's shotgun. He came to the entrance of the university in the little forest part of the university, and he started shooting at cars that were entering and exiting the university. Now, this picture here is a pickup truck, and in the South, it is very, very common that you see a rifle in the pickup truck. That's just not in the movies. This is real life. So this boy took his father's rifle, and Laura and I looked at each other on the floor and we said, the hell with this. If somebody is going to shoot at us, we're going back to New York and New Jersey. Okay, so I left teaching and I went back to New Jersey, and I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. So I'll go back this way. I went back to my high school and I talked to George. And I said, George, I don't know what to do. And he said, well, why don't you go to the community college and do some art courses, take some art courses at the community college. You can study 2-dimensional design, 3-dimensional design, graphic design. So I said, that sounds interesting. He said, I'm going to call my friend. My friend is a professor there. So I went to the college and I talked to Dan. I started taking classes. And then Dan says, hey, you're really good. Let's make a portfolio and let's try to get you into Kane, to the art program at Kane. So I sent my portfolio there and I was accepted. Okay, so at Kane, I decided I would study visual communications, and visual communications has graphic design, advertising, media, and illustration. Okay, so I started with graphic design because that's what I studied with Dan at the community college. And then when I had graphic design, I had all of the foundation courses, and I said, well, I had this teacher, Alan Robbins. Alan Robbins is an illustrator, graphic designer, psychologist. He graduated in psychology, and he has written many books, and he writes comics and things like this, and he's pretty well known around the world. Okay, he's kind of world famous, and he did something in class where we were having a discussion about graphic design and advertising, and he said graphic design is like taking a tomato and throwing it in someone's face. Just throw it in their face and it hits them and it's over. Okay? Advertising, he said, is me giving Elise the tomato. I say, here, Elise, take this tomato. And then I say to Elise, wow, Elise, wouldn't it be fantastic to just take that tomato and squish it in your face? Wouldn't that be fantastic? You really want to do that. So I have to convince the person to do an action. So when he explained the tomato thing, I said, I fell in love, and I said, I want to study advertising. So I looked in the book for the university. I looked at graphic design and advertising, and I said, wow, they're very similar, maybe one extra semester. I can graduate with graphic design and advertising. So that's what I did. Okay. Then I decided, we were in another class, okay, and they were talking about media. There was a media class, okay, and I said, well, that would be interesting to take as my extra class, one of my extra classes. So I went downstairs in the building and I went to my media class, and I had to make short films, little short movies and things like this. And I really fell in love with it. And the professor said, well, you could make this your area of specialization. But I said, yeah, but I already have graphic design and advertising. I already have 2 specializations. He said, yeah, but if he takes his book and he looks at his book, he says, look, it's only 1 extra semester and you could have media specialization too. So I said, that sounds interesting. Okay. So when the dean discovered that I was going for 3 areas of specialization, she said, you are insane. 3 areas. And I said, it's okay. I'll do it. No problem. Oof. It was difficult. It was a challenge. Oof, my Lord. But I did it. And I just talked to her today on Facebook, and I asked her, has any other person besides me, has any other person graduated with 3 areas? And she said, nope. We have changed the courses and it's different here. You know, we studied differently here, but from that time, you were the only person that got 3 areas of specialization. So the 4th area was illustration. And I had to take, just for my initial courses, I had to take drawing, and we had to take life drawing, where you have to draw people. And I said, oh God, I'm a good student. I get good grades, but I am going to fail this class. I was talking to Alan. I said, Alan, I'm going to fail this class because I cannot draw people. I said, everybody I draw looks like a cartoon, looks like a comic. He said, okay, well, then you come to my class and you study cartooning with me. So he substituted cartooning for illustration because I can't draw people. I really suck trying to draw people, okay? So I took cartooning with him and we had a fantastic time. I think it was probably my favorite class at university was cartooning with Alan, okay? So he basically, George got me to go and study the arts, and Alan really, he also helped direct me to advertising. And because I graduated with advertising, graphic design, and media, I had more job offers. More people liked my resume because I already had experience in media, so I could immediately go and do television commercials, right? Because I had this experience that many people didn't have. As a writer in advertising, it was also better for me because I studied graphic design. So I knew the side of the words and I knew the side of the art. And then I knew the side of the TV. So that really, really helped me looking for a job, because normally you would have to have 3 people to do those 3 things, and they only had to pay 1 person. But I didn't get extra money. So I only got paid for the one job, not 3. But that's okay. I still had a lot of fun, okay? At university, we had to do a portfolio. And I have this as Godzilla critiqued my portfolio. Where does Godzilla and pizza come into play? Because I had 3 areas of specialization, basically I lived in the studio, okay? I went home to shower. I went home to eat. Sometimes I went home to sleep. A lot of the times I slept in the art building. And when we had portfolio time, many other people were there with me. There were always like 6 or 8 people that were there the whole night long. From the morning to night, we slept there. So we would order pizza, we would rollerblade around the building, we would skateboard around the building, we would watch Godzilla movies, and we had a party. It was a party all the time in the art building. So that's where Godzilla critiqued my portfolio comes from, because I talked to my friend, I guess a month ago on Facebook, and I reminded him that we watched Godzilla all the time, and he had forgotten. And we sat there all the time together watching Godzilla because we just couldn't think anymore. Okay, so life, and how did I not choke on my pizza? It's because I was famous for skateboarding and rollerblading while eating pizza. So I probably should be dead, because the way I didn't pay attention when I was near the stairs and pizza in my hand, distracted, but it was fun. Tired from being awake for 48, 72 hours, but it was the best time, okay? After I graduated, when I was looking for jobs, I started working at a small agency in Princeton, and I had to drive my car every day, okay? And it was really fun. It was nice work, but I still wanted to be in New York City, but it was taking a long time because advertising in New York City is a man's world. If you're a female, when I was trying to get in, it was difficult. If you have ever watched Mad Men on Netflix, you would understand exactly how it was, okay? And when people would see a female's resume, a woman's resume, the men would think, she's gonna get married, and then she's gonna have children, and she's not gonna wanna travel because she has a family, so I'm just going to get the man to work for me. I'll have all men work for me. So it was very difficult to move around from agency and agency to get a different job, to go to a better agency. And my partner, my art director, was also female. So then we had 2 females. If my partner was a man, I would have had a better chance of getting into agencies more easily. But because we were 2 women, it was really difficult because it was a man's world, okay? So what did we decide to do? We're gonna change our name, okay? So her name was Melanie, and my full name is Cassandra. We used to wear platform shoes, skirts, long jackets. I mean, very, very New York style, advertising looking people. And we decided, well, on our resume, we have to make them think we're men. So Mel, I always called her Mel. It was her nickname. Mel is actually a man's name, and it's a nickname for Melanie. So on her resume, we put Mel. And then at university, a lot of people called me Casey. They called me Cassie, they called me Casey. Casey can also be a man. So on my resume, I put Casey because that was one of my nicknames. And we started getting phone calls to go for interviews. And when we walked in, the men just went, "They're women." They didn't know. We tricked them, but we got the job because finally they saw our portfolio before they saw women. So it really worked for us. And it was an excellent strategy. And it was fantastic to see the look on the men's faces when two women walked in when they were expecting men, right? So it worked to our advantage, okay? Highs and lows of working in industry, okay? Working at a big agency, it's really lively and it's really awesome. It's so fun. At Darcy, we had a pool table. So when we were thinking or when we had to relax or when we had to de-stress, we went and played pool, okay? We also had a room, a quiet room, where they had bean bags, you know, like those bean bags that we have outside the library at UNIFAE. We had those in this little room. So we would go and we would sit and we would take our notebooks and write down ideas, or we would have a cup of coffee there and just sit and relax and de-stress, okay? We had a cafeteria in the building. We had an espresso machine. You can see the little person drinking all that coffee, espresso machine. If we worked late, the company bought us dinner. If we worked very late and there were no more trains, they would call the company cars. It was like a company Uber, and they would drive us all the way back to New Jersey from New York City, 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. We also had to do a lot of research because at that time we didn't have the internet like we do now. I'm old, see, white hair, white hair. I'm old. We didn't use the internet like you all do now. So when we had an idea for a TV commercial, we said, okay, well, I think I want blues music, like a blues rock. So we went to the music store and we would buy 5, 10 CDs and we would take them back to the office and we would listen to all of them to see if we liked one of the songs to use in the TV commercial. So we did this with movies too. If we needed to reference a movie, we had to go buy the movies. So after my first couple of years in New York City, I think I still have most of them. I have a collection of probably 300 CDs and probably 100 movies. And I think I paid for maybe 20 or 30 of those out of my pocket because the agency paid for them all. The client paid for them all. But I have such a huge collection, and that's how I became a blues fan, because I bought all those CDs and then I just started listening to them all the time. Okay. Let me see what else. I have a couple things here. Okay. Funny story working at big agencies is big agencies in New York City, they can take 15 floors of a building. And Young and Rubicam was one of those where we had multiple floors. And I don't remember exactly what floor I worked on. I think it was like 7, 8, or 9, something like this. And we had to take the elevator every day, right? And the Young and Rubicam was located in a very old building. So even the elevator was kind of iffy. You didn't know when those doors closed if you were going to get to the 7th floor or not. So one day we did not make it to the 7th floor. We got stuck, okay? And Melanie and I, we were nervous because here we are in the elevator, and we called the person downstairs with the alarm, and he said, just sit and wait. I'm going to get you help, okay? So we're sitting and they're waiting and we're getting frustrated and we're getting cranky. We're getting angry. We're getting very bored, right? Because there was nothing to do because we didn't have smartphones back then. So here we are, we're stuck in the elevator, okay? Very low point. And then this little door opens in the side of the elevator and a fireman pops in like this and he goes, "Hey girls." And we looked at him and we said, "Oh, this is a high point of my career. Sexy, sexy, sexy fireman. Oh my God." So he says, "Okay, you have to go from this door, you have to crawl across into the other elevator." I said, "Dude, we are like 7 stories up." He goes, "Yeah, don't look down." Okay, so here I am going between 2 elevators, 7 floors up. I did not look down. I told him, I said, "You are so sexy. I am not looking down. I am looking at you," right? So he pulls me over to the next elevator. There are 3 more firemen there. It looked like one of those sexy fireman calendars. I could not believe my eyes. I said, "I am going to make this elevator stop every day from now on. So you guys have to come and rescue me every day." And Melanie said, I was not married at the time. Melanie said, "Shit, I'm married." Said, what happens in the elevator stays in the elevator. So that was my little story from Young and Rubicam. We got stuck in the elevator, but then they replaced them with new elevators, so it didn't happen again. Okay. Here's one. When I worked at Darcy, everybody said, "Oh, where is Darcy located?" And I said, "Well, it's located on the corner of Piss and Puke." Okay. Why? New York City stimulates creativity. It's very inspirational, but it also stimulates your senses because there are many homeless people there. The homeless people will go to the bathroom wherever they want, on the street, in the subways, okay? And because of the location, there were many bars. So at nighttime, people were drunk, they would vomit. Ugh. So you come into work the next day, you come up from the subway, and it smelled like a combination of piss and puke. So that's how I said where I worked for Darcy. I worked at the corner of Piss and Puke. Kind of low point, but Darcy was such a fantastic agency. I just ran past it and, ran into work. Another great thing about Darcy was my boss. I don't know if you know who Billy Idol is. He's an old rock star now, right, Elise? Kind of really old, okay, probably ancient now. You can see my boss here, okay? These are more recent pictures. He has long hair now. And when I worked for him, he had short hair and he really truly looked like Billy Idol. And he had an accent, so that made him even more like Billy Idol. Then he dressed like Billy Idol. He was in a band like Billy Idol. He played drums as well. And he was a really fun kind of crazy guy. In his office, he had the big corner office like you see in movies. And he had a full drum set in his office. So during the day, he would play drums. When he got mad at a client or something, he'd go in and start wailing on his drums. And he also had a full bar in his office. Whiskey, cognac, everything. A fridge full of Heineken. Great boss. Great boss. We worked a lot of hours, and because we were at a large agency and he was like the head creative there, he received a lot of tickets for Broadway shows. He received a lot of tickets for late night TV shows like David Letterman and things like this. And he didn't go, so he would give the tickets to the people who worked for him. So on any day, he would come into our office with tickets for Broadway. And we would go to a show, tickets to the cinema, and we would go see a movie, right? All for free because he got everything for free. The funny thing is that I don't know if you know what talk shows are, late night talk shows, 11 o'clock at night. It's one person at a desk and he has visitors and they talk, right? This was the David Letterman show. Now, David Letterman, the offices for the show we were on the corner and they were on the corner next to us, okay, across the street. And they always looked across and they would see this guy that looked like Billy Idol playing his drums, drinking whiskey. And they were so curious, who is this man? So they sent tickets to our agency and it said, to the man with the drums in the corner office, because they didn't know his name. So the people in the mail room would bring up the tickets, or the front desk would bring up the tickets. And he never wanted to go because he knew if he went to the David Letterman show, they would ask him questions, right? Who are you? What do you do? And he didn't want that. So he would give them to other people, right? But I never wanted those tickets because I knew that the producers of David Letterman definitely knew those 2 seats were for the guy that had the drums in the corner office that looked like Billy Idol. So if I went to the show, they would look at me and say, who's the guy that looks like Billy Idol? And then I could not tell anybody any information because he did not want anybody to have his information. So I said, I'm not going because I don't want to lose my job. I want to keep my job. I don't want to put myself in that position. So I never took tickets for David Letterman. I wanted to, I loved the show, but I never wanted to go, okay? Because I was afraid of losing my job, okay? All right, here we go. Highs. You have the one meaning of high is when you are happy, and the other meaning of high is when you're on drugs, right? Advertising, of course, there would be drugs and stuff like that. Me, I was never one that was into them. But we worked such long hours trying to get new business. I found myself drinking 4 liters of coffee every day. Every day, 4 liters of coffee. And this was the espresso machine too. So it was very, very strong. So that was my high. That was my drug. Cocaine, nah. Pot, nah. Give me coffee, right? It let me keep up. It let me work fast, right? Kept me awake all night long. So one time I had to go to a client in Cincinnati, and the whole trip to go from New York City to the airport, and then it was a very short flight to Cincinnati, and then a very short drive, car service to the clients. When I arrived, it was probably, I don't know, 2.5 hours. When I arrived at the client, I didn't have coffee for 2.5 hours, say. I was sweating and I was shaking like this, shaking, because I needed the caffeine. And the client wanted to call the medics to come get me in the ambulance and take me to the hospital. I said, just tell me where the coffee is. So I went in the room. I had 1 cup, 2 cups, 3 cups, 4 cups of coffee. My hands stopped shaking and I said, all right, let's go to work. That's the day I knew I had a drug problem. That's the day I knew that I had to go to rehab, because I could not be without coffee for 2.5 hours. It was crazy. I was a junkie. I had a drug problem. Okay. So it took me 1 whole year to get the discipline to only have 2 cups of coffee a day instead of 4 liters. 1 year it took me to stop drinking 4 liters of coffee, okay? So that was a high in the sense of drugs and a low in the sense that it was terrible to go to my client and be like this, okay? They really thought that I must have been high on cocaine or something, withdrawing from cocaine, but no, just coffee, okay? Lows. Like I said, I worked, I don't know for how many years. I worked 7 days a week, and I worked a minimum of 14 hours a day, a minimum. There were times when the company Uber would bring me home to New Jersey. I would go in my house, I would shower, I would change my clothes, and I would come back out to the car. He would go to the little place where I got my breakfast sandwich and my first cup of coffee, and he would take me back to work. So basically the only sleep I had was in the car from New York City to my house and from my house to New York City. So that could have been maybe, depending on traffic, between 2 and 3 hours of sleep. And this was like a regular thing. If I had to do that these days at my age now, I would be dead. There's no way my body could support the hours that I worked. Now, one benefit of all this new business and working these crazy hours, when we did this, our dream was for the boss to say, okay, new business, TV, I want you to go to the editing studio, because at the editing studio, they had a special chair that you sat in the chair, and it had like a little pillow with a donut like you see in the movies so you could see. And you would get a massage, a free massage in the chair while you were working. You would look through the little donut and say, yeah, could you take 2 or 3 frames off of that right there? Yeah, that's good. Okay. Free massages. Great, 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 great thing. Okay. The work. I'm going to show you guys some campaigns that we worked on. We did win our group for the client. We did win. There was one that won an Effie. There was one that won a Gold Comma Award. All the awards always stay with the agency, not with the creative. So when we left agencies, we only had these on our resume, and that was it. Okay. I'm going to start off with a campaign that was just print. This campaign, you know, the product that we have here in Brazil, it's a feminine product called Always, right? Everybody understand Always, the feminine product Always? They had a product that was called All Days that you could use every day. And I'll read here. It says, women can wear their thongs more often. Now there are panty liners for them that do not show. We communicate how invisible and liberating they are. And we hired Edward Mapplethorpe. Edward Mapplethorpe was Robert Mapplethorpe's brother. Robert Mapplethorpe was a famous photographer. And he took really artistically beautiful black and white photographs to show this beauty and this freedom, okay? So the idea of liberty, we had this first ad here, and it says your mother had to burn her bra to feel this liberated, okay? Now, for you guys, it will probably be your grandmother had to burn her bra because it's years, decades later, right? Okay, so that was our first one. And then we had 2 more that ran in the campaign, and it said some men should be as invisible, okay? Because you know that kind of man that irritates you, annoys you, and you wish he would be invisible and go away. So that was our idea behind this. Some men should be as invisible. And then wear your thong everywhere, even on Sunday, because now on Sunday, that is our church day in the United States. Sunday morning, we go to church, okay? It's a little different here. You go on different days of the week. But the idea was that freedom and that being a little dangerous, even on Sunday, wearing your thong to church, okay? So that campaign went very well. It was very well received. The client loved it. The creative director loved it. So it was definitely a win. Here, that campaign brought some of its own complications, let's say. I have this slide is called the ass men, okay? Remember how it's a man's world. It's now a man's world. They don't want to work on products like this. They're female products. They're for girls. They're for women. They don't want to get this intimate with a woman's monthly cycle. They don't want to understand this kind of stuff. They are afraid to understand these things, okay? So this was our advantage because we did a great campaign. But when they saw the ideas to present to the client and they saw the beautiful boom booms, they all wanted to go and choose the models. They all wanted to go and look at the butts all day long. They even told us they hoped we would get sick so they could go in our place, so they could go and see the boom booms all day. So they acted like asses because they were mean and rude because they wanted to see asses, okay? In advertising, you have many opportunities to, let's say, make an ass out of yourself, to embarrass yourself. There were times when there was one time we went to go see a client to do some work, and we are in this building, and we discovered it was actually the place we were going was the old apartment of Martin Scorsese. So here I am sitting there, the client is talking, and I'm looking around like this. I can't believe he used to live here and I'm here. Holy crap, right? So here I was embarrassed because the client is like, hey, stop, come back to me. But I was just all fascinated because I'm in Scorsese's apartment. Holy crap, right? So I made an ass of myself. And then there was a photo shoot, actually a TV shoot, sorry, that was in California for one of our ad campaigns. And I didn't get to go because I was the writer. The art director got to go. Melanie got to go. And she was emailing me, and she was calling me and saying, oh, this happened today and this happened the other day. And she was keeping me up to date. And she sent me a picture of her at a restaurant with a lobster claw as big as her head. But there was one part of the information that she didn't tell me until she came back, because she knew that I would be so sad. When she went to that restaurant, Morgan Freeman was sitting at the table next to her. Morgan Freeman is like my favorite actor ever. And I'm so glad that I did not go to California, because I probably would have been looked like one of those absolutely crazy people, because I was close to him. So thank God I didn't go, because that probably would have been the most embarrassing thing in my career if I was in the same place as Morgan Freeman. Okay. Let's look at another campaign we did for Crest White Strips. Our whole idea was to turn wasted time into whitening time, okay? And everybody believed that Crest White Strips, they believed that they would whiten your teeth. They believed it was true, but you had to do it 2 times a day for 30 minutes each time. And these people, they said, when do I have time to do this? And we're like, duh, you waste time every day looking at Facebook, looking at Instagram. We didn't have that back there, but looking at, just doing stupid things, okay? So we had TV, we had print, we had banner ads, social media, outdoor, everything. It was a whole full campaign. And one of the ideas was you're in the 10 items or less lane at the supermarket, and the person ahead of you can't count. You know those people at the supermarket that go into the 10 items or less and they have like 50, 60 items, and you have to wait, you have to wait, and you have to wait. So we took all of these negative situations and we turned them into something positive about using that wasted time to do something positive for yourself, okay? The next print that I have here is on the right side. It says, it's your best friend, yet sometimes you wish she'd just call her therapist, okay? You know that friend that you have to spend 30 minutes, an hour giving her advice that she will not listen to, right? So this is one of the times that we said you can use your wasted time. And then we put it on taxis, we put it on park benches and everything. These were some ideas of how to blow out and extend our campaign, okay? I'm gonna show you one of our spec TV spots. A spec TV spot wasn't actually produced. It was our idea, and then we actually produced it for our portfolio. So here we go. Let me open that up real quick. Okay, here we go.
Another commute. And this guy smells worse than the one yesterday. Hey, at least your teeth are getting whiter. Pressed white strips. Turn wasted time into whitening time.
I'll play one more time.
Another commute. And this guy smells worse than the one yesterday. Hey, at least your teeth are getting whiter. Pressed white strips. Turn wasted time into whitening time.
Okay, so the idea of that came on our commute because we used to have to go from both of us went from New Jersey to New York City every day. And you encounter some crazy people, some people that smell absolutely horrible. So this idea came from when we were going back and forth every day on our commute to and from work. So we used all our time to come up with new ideas. I'll show you a Pillsbury commercial. Pillsbury are people who produce like cakes in boxes. You now have these kinds of things in Brazil, okay? I don't know if I've ever seen Pillsbury here in Brazil or not, but the idea of this was these cookies were already made. You didn't have to do anything but put them in the oven. And so they were like individual cookies, and they were really big like Subway. But Subway are really, really thin, and these were really, 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 really big. And they were so delicious. They gave us free cookies all the time because it was our client. So the idea was that you can have the mom and dad time, right? Individual cookies without waking the kids. So what are other things that you do that you don't want the kids to wake up is have sex, okay? So we started connecting the sexual tension with hiding and making cookies instead. Here we go.
See you in the morning, sweetie.
You moved.
Always. What are you doing? Nothing. You can't do everything in front of the kids. Big deluxe classics from Pillsbury. What do you crave?
I'll play it one more time.
We'll see you in the morning, sweetie.
You moved.
Always. You can't do everything in front of the kids. Big deluxe classics from Pillsbury. What do you crave?
I have to say, those actors, the three of them, were extremely great to work with. They were, oh, sorry, let me turn that off. They were so fun to work with because their facial expressions and their professionalism, they understood exactly what we wanted. And it was probably, I think, one of the easiest thing to shoot because they were so fast and they got it. And it was just really, really fun when we were editing this because we really got the close-up on her face, you know, his face when he's like, hey, you in the mood? And her face when she's like, always, you know. And it was just a fabulous thing when we saw it coming together. It was really, really, really fun. Okay, and I'm going to show you two more. It's the predecessor to GPS and Waze. It was called Rand McNally, and this work was also spec because this work didn't get produced, but here we go. Okay, I'll play it one more time so it's easier to understand. Okay, and we had a second one to this. I'll play that one real quick. It's very similar in the shooting. This was actually done with stock film. Okay, so the idea is, you know, it's pre-GPS, right? Where when you get lost, some people, they don't want to ask directions and they just drive around and say, oh, but I know where I am. Okay, so this is where it actually the idea came from my husband because he doesn't like to ask for directions. He just drives around until he finds his way. So you may be lost, but we know exactly where you are. Definitely 100% my husband. Now, this kind of concept would not work in a magazine, right? So what we did is we figured we would blow it out to outdoor and billboards because it's all about driving and finding your way. So our first one that we did was a billboard on the side of the street, this street where there's nothing there in the middle of nowhere. It's scary. You just want to get through as fast as possible. And we just, nice and easy. Getting lost is usually the first scene in a horror movie. Okay. We did another one at a gas station and it says, just an insight, maps help save gas, because you're not, right? And we had one more in the middle of nowhere. You may be lost, but we know exactly where you are. Okay, so it worked really well as an outdoor campaign. So we mocked up some ads and we put that one in our portfolio. Okay, so that's the work I'm going to show you, and I'm going to go back and we're just going to look at one more thing. I have to go through these. Okay, and the last slide is thanks for the ride. And you could see the image here. I worked in New York City. I was working that day of September 11th. Okay, I was in the city. I was not down by the towers that day, but it really changed everything for me. It really changed my passion for New York City. I didn't feel safe going into the city. I didn't feel safe coming home from the city. And something that happened that I put here that still haunts me today is that I consider myself lucky because multiple times a week we were running around the city. We were taking taxis, subways. We were going to stores to research projects. We went to casting calls, editing studios, the occasional bar. Okay, sometimes you just have to stop and get an alcoholic beverage when you're doing all this running around, right? I don't know how many times that I went through the World Trade Center or near the World Trade Center, but it is kind of crazy that I was not near the buildings that day, because the chances of me having been there were pretty good because of all the times that we did travel around the towers. They have a thing called post-traumatic stress disorder, which I have. To this day, if someone makes a loud noise, I get crazy and I get afraid. I jump, and if my daughter drops something, she says, I'm okay, because I go running to see what happened. So when I was talking to Alicia before, she said, you have tattoos, right? So I have a tattoo here on this arm, I have a tattoo here on this arm, and I have a tattoo on my chest, and they're all to do with September 11th. So every time I look at my tattoos, I can remember how strong I am to have mentally survived this kind of trauma. So these are my therapy tattoos. I saved a lot of money on a psychologist. I got tattoos. I paid the tattoo artist instead. So that basically ended my days of advertising, September 11th. I stayed at the agency for, I don't know, maybe 4 or 6 more months, and I found a new job in a different place, and I completely changed my life after that. So that's it. That's all I have to tell you for today. I guess I'll stop sharing, and then if you guys want to ask any questions, anybody? Everybody's got their mute buttons on.
Yeah. Alguma pergunta, gente? Curiosidade, pode perguntar em português. Eu fiz um resumo ali no chat. Alguma coisa? Não? Ah lá.
Everybody too shy?
Temos uma pergunta aqui. Lucas said, I think that changes everything forever. Right now,
Yeah.
I'm watching the USA debate, and the terrorism is still a huge problem to the country.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I'm so glad I'm here in Brazil with you all. Yeah. I feel so much better being here with you all than being there. Americans are batshit crazy.
Não conta pra ninguém que os americanos são doidões. Isso aí. Alguma coisa, gente, sobre a área? Eu sei que vocês são curiosos. Ô, Sandy, uma curiosidade aqui. Can you tell us about how much money a professional of advertising earns there? What do you think?
I'm trying to look. I just opened my chat too, so I can see. But I don't see everything.
No, I just asked because I know they want to know.
Oh, okay. When I left the city, I mean, this was 2002. When I left the city, I was making $95,000 a year. Okay. And my boss, I think, was probably making $500,000 a year.
Yeah.
Okay. My top, the Billy Idol guy. Because he has worked all around the world. He has worked in Hong Kong. Right now, he's in New Zealand. He has been in many different countries as the head creative in different agencies. When I left New York City, I went and worked in upstate New York. I was the director of an animal shelter. I took care of cats and dogs, and my salary was $20,000 a year. I took a $75,000 pay cut to move and be happy somewhere else.
Yeah.
That was difficult because I had become accustomed to all that money, and then all of a sudden there's no money.
Yeah, I see.
Do you have any more questions?
I do. Why did you decide to become a teacher?
Well, remember when I started university, I went to study to be a teacher. And since I was a little girl, I always told my parents, I'm going to marry a man from another country. I'm going to get married in secret, right? Elope in English. And I'm going to move to that other country, and I'm going to do something to help and give people opportunities that they would not normally have. So when I brought home my boyfriend, who was from Brazil, they kind of looked, but they said, nah, right? So then I also told them I will never live with a man unless I am married. So when I got an apartment with my boyfriend, they were a little suspicious, right? Because I always said this, but she was only a little girl. That changes, you know? So then 4 months later, we sit down at the table and I said, there's something I need to tell you. I got married 4 months ago. And he's like, damn it, my father said, I knew it. He said, so when are you moving to Brazil? And I said, well, I don't know yet. You know, we've talked about it, but I don't know yet. So I have done everything that I have wanted to do when I was a little girl. My husband is Brazilian. I got married in secret. I never lived with a man I wasn't married to. I moved to Brazil, and by having Centro de Línguas, I found a methodology that was much cheaper than the other schools here in São João. So it gives the opportunity for people who don't have a lot of the money to spend on another language school to study with us at UNIFAE, because it's cheaper than the other schools. It's the cheapest in São João, and it's the best. Any other questions? Oh, you're so quiet. I know there has to be more
A
questions.
escola de inglês da Unifae realmente, além de ser a mais barata de São João, ela é a melhor de São João. Isso eu não posso negar.
Alice studied with us.
Isso.
And Alice also was a teacher with the methodology. So Alice knows the methodology very well.
Yeah.
And Alice also, we sent her to Vancouver to study at our school in Vancouver.
Yeah.
So that is also an opportunity. Every UNIFAE student has the opportunity. You have a discount to go for 1 month and study English in Vancouver at our school in Vancouver.
Yeah. Nós temos uma parte da escola em Vancouver, outra parte aqui em outros lugares do mundo. Alunos da Unifae podem passar 1 mês ou mais ou até menos e estudar inglês lá em Vancouver, como eu fui. Foi muito legal. Eu conto para vocês. Ô, pessoal, eu acho que a gente já excedeu aqui o nosso horário, né? O pessoal já está cansadinho. Tem alguma coisa mais urgente para falar? Não? Sandy, I just love to be with you. Thank you so much. for coming here for this class. We are very happy because this is officially the final class, English class of the semester.
Oh, yeah.
We
Go out with a bang, right?
Other activities, yeah.
Yeah.
Se a Bel quiser se despedir, é a hora, Bel.
Vou falar em português, né? Porque eu fui uma fugitiva do Centro de Intercâmbio e Línguas, tá, gente? Não façam como eu fiz. O trabalho acabou me afastando e eu entendo, assim, né? Tento manter aqui o meu sotaquezinho, mas infelizmente meu cérebro para raciocinar, falar inglês, menina, é pior que o... Vai.
Você precisa ir para Vancouver para um mês.
Eu vou, a Alice vai comigo.
Estou combinando com ela. Nós vamos.
Já está nos nossos planos. Já está.
Vamos montar um grupo.
Vai ser muito bom. Vocês vão ter que me aguentar, porque vocês vão falar só inglês, eu vou ficar assim, what? Oh, ok. Gente, muito obrigada, Sandy. Sempre muito bom tê-la conosco. Primeira de muitas inserções próximas aí dos nossos alunos de comunicação. Parabéns pelo teu caminho, pela tua trajetória, pela tua história. Que bom tê-la conosco para compartilhar todas essas experiências tão legais. Outros papos mais virão. E fica o convite também para quem ainda não conhece o Centro de Intercâmbio e Línguas da UNIFAE para fazer contato com a Sandy e poder aí já... Quem sabe o ano que vem ingressar também nas aulas de inglês, né? Já que vocês vão ficar sem Alice's Class, vocês podem ter o quê? Sandy's Class.
Você pode assistir algumas aulas também para conhecer a metodologia.
Isso, realmente interessante.
Muito obrigada, Sandy. Valeu, pessoal, que ficou aí até agora. Muito bom. Parabéns, Alice. Muito bom mesmo, viu? Valeu, gente.
Obrigada, gente.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye, bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Boa noite.
See you.
See you.